Hey guys, Ramsey here, going to do the reread book tag. I'm trying to catch up on tags that I've been tagged in. Thank you guys for tagging me in tags. They're great videos to do to get your channel kind of noticed and then to talk about books that you really enjoy. A lot of times I use it as great opportunities to push on you guys books that I've enjoyed and like, hey, well, this book is this and let me tell you all about it and maybe we can talk about it and enjoy reading it because I liked it. I think you might like it, based on what, you're coming to the channel for reviews on. And so I love doing tags, but I've been so behind. I went down to one video a week in end of November, December. And so trying to ramp back up. I'm going to do 2 or 3 tags here in the next little bit. And the last one the first one that I was tagged in that I hadn't done, that I know of, is the reread book tag, where Leslie tagged me in it from the Nerdy Narrative. I'll link her down below. She tagged me way back in October 9th, so I am behind. I will get them caught up. I promise. I've written them all down in my handy dandy notebook, and I've got them ready to be done. I just need to film them, edit them, and get them out. But I will. I promise. All right. So the reread book tag was originally done by Roz over at Scalladandling About the Books, and I was going to do it anyway because when I saw her tag, I was like, I reread all the time. I want to do this. And so when Leslie tagged me, I was like, great excuse. I'm going to do it. Wrote it down. She actually thought at the end when she tagged me that we would have very similar answers, and she is 100% right. As I was writing down all the questions and going over what my answers would be, they paralleled hers a lot. So we're very similar in our reading tastes. So let's start with question 1. Where do you sit on the reread scale from almost never to all the time? Personally, all the time. I was really bad about before BookTube. I didn't know what to read, so I just read something I enjoyed. I've probably read Dune 4 times. I've reread The Wheel of Time multiple times. I know that one of the questions is, which one have you read the most? And I'm trying to think about it. I'll answer that when we get down there. But yeah, all the time. At least once a month. I reread Elantris this month. And next month I'm going to reread probably Assassin's Apprentice, maybe the first Mistborn book, Final Empire. Might even reread something else because there's stuff coming up like Red Rising. I might join them for the February Red Rising. I might reread it. I might just talk back and forth and getting ready for book 2, and then talking about doing an Expanse series. I might reread Leviathan Wakes, book 1 in that. So yeah, I reread all the time. Number 2, has that changed over your reading life? Yes, it has. I reread less now than I used to. I would say I used to reread all the time. It was almost exclusively what I read. I'd add a book to my repertoire and I'd reread that again and again and again. And now BookTube has expanded my reading horizons. Things that I was not aware of before BookTube, like Goodreads and BookTube itself, things like that, where I have such a bigger library resource where I find books that I'm like, man, I would really, really like that. Let me add it to what I want to read. So I've really limited my rereading, not because I don't want to, but because there's so many good things on the horizon. Like, I would have never read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest unless we kind of all got together and said, hey, let's do that for a buddy read on Brad Proctor's channel, which I'll link his Discord. That I'm loving it. I've got maybe 50 pages left, and as soon as I get into this video, I want to go ahead and finish reading it because it's just been so good. But things that I would have never gone into and read, and now because I'm not rereading, I'm getting the opportunity to enjoy these books that sometimes are classics. Like, I don't think other than Rhythm of War and some of the Sanderson stuff I've read lately, all the books I've read are like beginnings of series that I never knew about that I'm so excited to start, or continuing on in series that maybe I read the first book on and just never got around to reading the rest of the books in. Like right now, rereading the first 3 books in Dune. I read Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, and next we're going to God Emperor of Dune, and that's where I stopped way back in the day. So going on in that series will be something that I'm excited to do. So yeah, it has changed, but recently. Number 3, when do you reread? Right away, years later, or just when the mood strikes? That depends on A lot of different factors. Number one, I don't think I've ever put a book down and then reread it right away. I don't think I've ever done that. But I probably have a couple books that I'll just do like um, when I feel the need. I'll just go ahead and I'll just start a reread on it. Wheel of Time, like every time a new book would come out, I would reread a couple books back to make sure I knew everything that I wanted to know going on. And then I waited for Sanderson to finish the last three and reread the whole series, just to get my everything. I needed to know everything. But the cool part about that is when, and I think that's a question on here too, but I was able to go like some of the boring parts where it was just flat out descriptions of a city or flat out descriptions of what someone's wearing. I could skim it a little, and it was a much faster read because I knew the gist. I wanted the meat, and I was able to get rid of the toppings, I guess. Question 4: why do you reread books? The easy answer to that is because I love them. Books that I reread are books that I love, but also there have been times when people have said, I think you need to give that a shot. Ready Player One was one of those where I'd actually set it down, and somebody was like, "No, go ahead and give it a shot again. I think you're being a little too harsh on it." So I reread it, starting fresh over at the beginning. Reread all of Ready Player One, and I actually didn't mind the ending. The only real thing I didn't like in Ready Player One was the main character. The story was great, the setting was great, the pop culture references I loved, and then I just didn't like the main character. So sometimes that's the reason that I reread. Sometimes the reason is I need a refresh. When they did Stormalong 2020, that was a great refresh to get me ready for Rhythm of War. There were things in Oathbringer that I'd completely forgotten. Question 5: how do you reread? Faster, slower, or just skip the good parts? Mostly, I skip to the good parts. When I was talking about Oathbringer, I took a lot of notes on that one, getting ready for some YouTube videos. So that one was a little bit slow. Well, it wasn't slower. I still read it in 5 days, but I did kind of take some time and highlight stuff and make sure that I knew what I wanted to pull out of it for YouTube videos coming up. But yeah, mostly I just skip the good parts. I'll skip over the descriptions of things and really get to the meat, like I said earlier. Question 6: who or what do you reread? What authors or genres or individual books? Individual books is probably classics. There's certain classics that I love and that I reread all the time. Genres, it's fantasy and sci-fi. I don't really go out of that very often, except when I go into like some historical fiction. And authors, I've reread Sanderson a lot. I've reread Elie Modesitt quite a bit, rereading his Order Magician series, and I like those books a lot, and I like reading them. I like those books a lot, and I like reading them. And then rereading some Redwall, kind of getting back into that. Those are fun. I would just say I reread books that I've very, very much enjoyed. It doesn't really matter the genre or the author, but I enjoy a certain set of books, so generally it's in that vein of book. Question 7: is there a book that was better the second time around? Yeah, Oathbringer, like I talked about, I had really pulled a lot of the meat out of Oathbringer. There's so much world building and stuff like that where I felt it was slower when I read it the first time. So I'd been waiting on it since, Words of Radiance came out. We had to wait a while. And then Oathbringer coming into it, I was just like, oh man, this feels so much slower. I feel like I waited for something that's going very slowly. And then when I went straight from Words of Radiance to Oathbringer, I enjoyed it a lot. I dug into deep, delicate things in it where, secrets and hints are teased out, and it was a lot more fun. And then rereading stuff that I read as a kid that I'm rereading as an adult, now that I have children, that has been really enjoyable. Like The Hobbit, enjoying that when I reread it last year. Dune, when I reread it this year. Just my different stage in life, it's better, and I enjoy it quite a bit. Question 8: is there a book that you have reread that got worse? I don't know if it got worse, but I didn't enjoy it as much, and that was the Harry Potter series. Except for The Prisoner of Azkaban. I just read Prisoner of Azkaban, and it was still as good. But the book one and book two of Harry Potter, I did not enjoy as much, and I actually found myself going, "Why did I like this so much back in the day?" Um, but that's a personal preference. Question 9: what is one book that you have reread the most times? And I think when you look at number of times that I reread it, from a child to an adult, I think that would be Treasure Island. It is my favorite classic book. It's a book that I read every couple of years. I like almost every iteration of it. Um, you know, they have cartoons, they have puppets, they have movies that have been very, very well done. They have retellings of it that have been well done. Robert Louis Stevenson has done an amazing job with that book before he died, and I still love it. I listened to an Audible narration recently where it was fully voice casted. Um, I just love it. It's definitely my favorite classic book. I think I probably reread it every 3 to 5 years. So I probably read it upwards about 10 times. And that is the last question. So next key is tagging people. So I wanted to tag a couple friends of mine that are also booktubers, and so we have Danny over at Spinelli Speaks. Her channel is awesome. She's doing new intros this year, and all of them have been good. She's doing a really cool feature where she's like previously, kind of like a TV show, and I think that's very well done, and I like it. And I'd like to see what she thinks about this tag if she hasn't done it. My buddy Unity151, he doesn't do a whole lot of tags, but I know he doesn't get tagged a whole lot in them, so I wanted to tag him and see what he thinks about rereads. And then my friend Mooney Reads, Monica, she is over in Spain, and I would love to hear her thoughts on rereading books, because I don't know if I've ever heard her really talk about rereading books, so I'd love to hear what she has to say about that. So guys, I hope you have fun reading the book today. Enjoy what you're reading, and I will talk to you next time. See ya.